Welcome back to our South Bromsgrove High School D&V YouTube channel. Today we're going to have a look at how to pitch the Vango Helvellyn 300 tent. So if it's a windy day, you need to make sure that your pole bag, peg bag and tent bag don't blow away. Going to roll the tent out and we'll find for this tent, as usual, that the poles are colour coded. So we have two poles that have a red section and one pole that has a yellow section. And then the pole sleeves are colour coded as well, so we can easily identify which pole goes where when we're putting up the tent. There's no need to peg out the tent until after you've put the poles in. And we can see here, this pole sleeve has a red tab on it, so I'm going to pop a red pole in here, feed that all the way through, nice and gently, until it's poking out both ends of the pole sleeve. And then our other red pole is going to go through this pole sleeve with the other red tab here. And again, just poke that one through until it's poking out both ends of the pole sleeve. And then our yellow pole is going to go through our final pole sleeve here, which is marked up with a yellow tab. So once the poles are, all three poles are through the pole sleeves, what we need to do is just to locate for each of the poles the tab at the bottom of the seam. So follow the pole sleeve down to the end of the seam, and then you just put the end of the pole through the eyelet there. And we'll do all three poles on this side, which then means that I can push the poles through from the other side. And now we can see the shape of the tent. It's repositionable, so you can just adjust the position of the tent if you need to. If you need to provide some extra tension through any of the parts of the tent, there are these adjustment points here where you can pull some fabric through the ladder lock buckle there. Pegging out the tent is fairly sort of self-evident. As usual, your tent pegs are going to go in at 45 degrees facing away from the tent. I would suggest pegging out the main points on the tent first, where the poles are, 45 degrees pointing away from the tent. And then the same on the other side. And then once you've got good tension balance between those pegs, you'll find the other pegging points just help to give you a good tension in all of your panels. The porch out the front of the tent is just going to be pegged out in the same kind of way. So we have two pegging points here. It's worth just taking note of this system here. Lots of people make the mistake of trying to peg through the end of the tab there, but what you want to do is peg it through the loop at this point here, because then that allows you to adjust the tension on the fabric using the ladder lock. It's the sort of thing that you might need to adjust maybe after it's rained or after the temperature has changed. You might need to provide some extra tension into the fabric by pulling down on this tab here and here. At other times you might need to loosen it. If you're pitching in windy conditions, you'll then also want to peg out the guy ropes here. I'd suggest this one comes out from the tent at about a 45-degree angle. I'd say it's probably a good idea for you to peg out the front of the tent using this adjustable guy rope here. So you can peg this one out straight in front of the tent. Again, 45 degrees facing away from the tent, and then we can just provide an appropriate amount of tension just there. The inner and outer of this tent stay connected together, which makes pitching it nice and fast and taking it down nice and fast as well. So I'm just going to move on now to taking the tent down. We basically reverse those steps. So I'm just going to shorten this guy rope a bit and then fold this up a few times just to neaten it up so it doesn't get too tangled. And then I'm going to take out the tent pegs. They can all come out in whatever order you want. Now remember, we ask you, once you pitch your tents, to put the pole bag, peg bag and tent bag inside the tent so that they don't get lost. So we would first of all have retrieved those from the inside of the tent before taking out the tent pegs, and then the poles can all come out. Remember that tent poles are always pushed through the fabric. If you pull them, they tend to separate into their sections. But if you push them through, they come out nice and easily. And then we'll collapse down the tent poles. Find the pole bag. And then, as always, we're going to be rolling the tent fabric around the poles. So we need to get the tent into a nice rectangular shape. So let's just straighten out the footprint again. The more care you take over this next step, the easier you'll find it to get it into the tent bag at the end. So we've stretched out the footprint of the tent. We've got all the fabric on top. The porch, I'm just going to flip that into the middle so it's now roughly rectangular. And I'm going to look at the length of my folded poles, because that's the width that I need my tent fabric to be. I think for this, what I'm going to start with is folding the tent fabric in half first. That's still too wide, so I'll squeeze out some of the air, and then I'm going to fold it in half again, and I think that will give me the right width here to start rolling around the poles. Going to put the pegs in towards the end so that they get trapped into the roll. And then roll this nice and neatly like that. These new style Vango bags are easiest to put onto the tent roll when it's still on the ground. So you can put them on like this, roll it once more over, and then we're all done. So squeeze the air out and then finish with the compression straps just to neaten everything up at the end. There we go, the Vango Helvellyn 300 pitched and put away. Thanks for watching.